From the time I was a small child, my father loved cars. He bought a new car every year, and that got into my blood. So I just loved cars. When I came out of college, it was a car wash business I wanted to go into. I wanted to be the first company in Ireland to have an actual car wash facility where you could get your car washed. My mother wouldn't allow me. She said, we didn't send you to college for you to end up washing cars. My mother wanted me to have a safe, secure job. My father applied for a job for me as an accountant, and I've been working in and around finance ever since. My first day as an accountant was a very depressing day. I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, do I have to do this for the next 40 years? Well, the answer is yes. So there I was. I had my first job as a financial accountant. Challenge was I didn't know how to do the job, but I had one piece of luck. The general manager of the business was an accountant. And so over the next 18 months, he took me under his wing and he coached me on how to be an accountant within a commercial organisation. I think at an early stage, I was looking at figures in my job, but it wasn't the figures that I was seeing. I was understanding very early that the figures were just the result of a number of actions that had been taken in a business, and they were only just a recording or a measurement of the actions that had been taken. And so I was fascinated by the actions that were going on around in the business. I wanted to understand how the numbers arrived into the management accounts, because otherwise you just sit there and you count numbers. The fascinating part of my job, all my career really, has been understanding where the numbers came from. Before we had data analytics, right, we had a profit and loss on a balance sheet. And your performance as a business was measured once a year. There was a huge amount of work had to go into making sure that we had maximum cash, minimum debtors, maximum creditors, minimum inventory on the books on the last day of the year. The rest of the year, it was about cash flow. It was obviously your business wanted to make money. The rest of the year we were still manipulating, but for a different reason. We were manipulating in the real world to make sure that the business had cash to pay the salaries, pay the overheads, pay the suppliers. And what I learned in that job as well was that there was lots of fun and lots of excitement outside my little circle. Under normal circumstances, right, an accountant could just produce numbers. What's more important is saying, here's what happened and here's why. It's about being able to give an interpretation of why the numbers changed in the direction they changed. As a CFO or as a financial controller, I have gone out with salespeople on sales calls. I have gone on service calls with customers. I have watched the manufacturing process. I've gone to the factories where our products are made on our behalf. And it's fascinating what you learn when you step outside, because then the figures are really alive. Figures tell a story. That's probably the most important thing about numbers. And that's why our numbers always have to be up to date, because the story changes every day. Telling the story of the numbers and telling the story of the future of the numbers is far, far more important. But you have to have the numbers on which to base your story. Through a previous employment, I met a good salesperson. So I put it to him that we should start a business. But I actually started the business with nothing and only understanding the theory of that I had to raise money. Profitability came reasonably easily. Cash flow didn't, because inventory sucked our cash. The challenge with starting a new business is that you need customers. And after 6 months, we didn't have many customers and cash was running out. The only way that we were going to survive was by me affecting the numbers. And that was going out and changing the story in the business. So I had to step out from behind my desk and become a salesperson. I went out and I focused on building relationships. When you're in business, unless you are producing results that you can actually show and produce a story based on forecasts, you're not going to get any funding. Anybody who has started a business will tell you a different story as to how they managed to survive or succeed or grow. So we ran the business very successfully for about 22 years. And then we won a huge contract, and that contract actually brought our business to its knees. We ended up being very dependent upon one customer, and that put an end to our business. So at that point in time, I wasn't going to work for anybody else. I felt I had enough experience to help the other young businesses to grow and learn. So I started a consulting business. And one of the first phone calls I got was from Milner Brown. And I went in there believing that I was going to get a couple of days consultancy work out of it. I arrived in their offices the following Monday morning and have never left. I've been there ever since. It was a young, ambitious, R&D driven business that had no cash. So the best thing that I could do at the time was help bring cash to the table. Or my focus was very much a CFO's focus. It was about maintaining the day-to-day availability of cash in the business. And the business had a strange cash curve. Over a third of our revenues came in every year by way of annual maintenance agreement. Our cash levels started here and they went down through the year and then they rose up again at the end of the year. What we needed to do was we needed to fix the bit in the middle, the bit where our cash was going down and staying down until we got our cash back. I went to the bank and I said, this is our curve. This curve came from your verified figures. This is the curve of our cash flow every year. We need you to fill the gap. We need you to give us cash in June and we'll pay you back in December. Because the numbers were verifiable and because we told a great story about how we had grown and how we intended to grow, the bank gave us funding. And so Milner Brown's cash flow was repaired. Now we had a relationship with the bank, and I use the word relationship in a very strong way because everything is about relationships with your providers of funders, with people in the work. And more importantly, and the reason why the businesses are successful now is that we built relationships with our customers. We didn't promise them things we couldn't deliver. During 2014, the business wanted to innovate, and we saw an opportunity with what we now call enterprise software. That was an ability to create a cloud add-on for SAP software. And we ended up marketing and selling the product all over the world. Enterprise itself has grown from being an add-on for SAP Business One to being its own business management platform itself. With a SaaS business, the cash curve is completely different. We need a huge amount of cash initially to allow us to build the product. And so we build the product to the point where it's ready for sale. So how does the business survive when you have an overhead going like this? Because your first sale is going to be down at the bottom of the curve. So what you've got to do is you've got to provide funding from the very corner of the curve, and then you eventually build to a point whereby your income meets your spend. And what we've been actually doing is using the cash flow from Milner Brown to help fund that. So it's constantly finding a balance between what Milner Brown can generate in cash and what we can afford to spend or to not spend in enterprise to maintain that growth path. One of the key performance indicators of a business is, am I making a profit or am I making a loss? Another key performance indicator is, have I got cash or have I not got cash? Those two KPIs only have a result based upon everything else that was done in the business in the previous period. The KPIs drive the numbers, but they also drive the story behind it. And we have a monthly KPI meeting. The managers are sitting around the table every month. They deliver their KPIs, and from that we create action plans as to how maybe we might better collaborate or cooperate. We don't look at KPIs every day, right? Every business has a rhythm, and our business kind of has a monthly rhythm. 2 days after the end of the month, people should know how their department performed. We need to know what's happening in the business. And if you're the CEO of a business, you need to understand that the information that you're receiving is good information, because you're going to make decisions for tomorrow based upon it. So you have to have a solid system in place that gives you faithfully good information and that only gives you information that you need. And we call that management by exception. Well, no matter what business you have and no matter what business you're in, cash is king. If you have cash, you can look at anything as an opportunity. But it's very difficult to survive profitable business that has no cash. My personal lesson was, do not live on borrowed money unless I have a plan other than spending it. If you have a strategy for why you're borrowing money, work away, borrow the money. If part of that strategy is to build a business, if the strategy is only to survive, then you're just going to be left with a debt. The age I am now, 65 years of age, I'm not finished being curious and I'm not finished delivering. I feel as young today as I did when I was 25. just a lot more experienced. I'm not the wealthiest man in the world, but I'm one of the happiest men in the world. I have a wonderful family, and I'm still here, and I'm fit and ready to go. That's really genuinely what I'd be proud of. I'm still here, still doing it.